Now, a lot of companies are on the fence about picking what AI platform to use because they don't want to go with ones that has, let's say, broken the rules. But have they all pretty much broken the rules and it's a case of just picking your poison? So let's discuss. Welcome to the In a Nutshell podcast with myself, Andrew Miles Davis, and my co-host Chris Branch. This is the daily 10-minute podcast where we take out all of the techie talk around generative AI and focus on what the everyday person, content creator, and marketer wants to hear. Now, we've only got 10 minutes, so we can only focus on one subject. And today, we're going to talk about a subject that not many people talk about, but it's something that we are coming across quite a lot, especially when we're dealing with corporate clients, and that is deciding what AI platforms to use. And there's a number of reasons why they decide not to use certain platforms, and it's usually to do with data and how they collect information, etc. So they don't use them. But even the ones that they do think are good, are they still doing, let's say, grey hat best practice? And if you don't know what grey hat means in the world of digital, grey hat means it's not correct, but it's not necessarily illegal. Depends how you look at it. So, Chris, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, we're at the point now where if your model's as good as it needs to be in the top 4, you've definitely looked at copyrighted materials. There's just no way to say it any other way. Like previously, models like Firefly were seen as underperforming, which is Adobe's AI, by the way, because they'd only trained on stock images. Yeah. And that was very limiting because stock images are less than 1% of the images on the internet. You know, I'm probably they're less than 0.0001.
Very true, yeah.
So taking into context the fact that you need to have bigger and bigger data sets and the accuracy comes through, you know, like copyrighted artworks, copyrighted characters, copyrighted everything else. Plus, you can actually generate every one of these. You know, you can get a Pikachu out of any of them, a Mario out of any of them. So why clients right now are deciding to use one over the other is basically whatever they've heard on the grapevine from the lawyer that they know. You know, it's like when your accountant's mates and your uncle or whatever, and he gives you some random financial advice and that's what you go with. That's what clients are doing with AI tools right now. It's kind of embarrassing, honestly. And, you know, Flux has come out and it's totally torn up that rule book. It doesn't want to, because it's just totally uncensored. It's like Elon's, you know, ideal of an image generator, except it's not actually Elon's product.
Yeah.
It's like free speech is everything. You shouldn't tell me what I can and cannot prompt. And it's gone completely the opposite to all of these ones that we're getting. And there has been a big criticism, honestly. Some are too safe. Some are too boring, even though they've done dodgy stuff. You know, like they've trained on copyrighted stuff, but they won't let you prompt anything you want. And that seems controversial and hypocritical in some ways. So that's been a backlash from the community side. But I know why they're all doing it, because they want to be safe for businesses. They don't want porn turning up on their employees' computers by accident when you do the peach emoji or something like this. So, you know, it's a rock and a hard place for these AI platforms because they're trying to appease businesses. They're trying to appease people. And they're also trying to appease lawyers to convince them that the IP that they trained on is transformative in nature when it comes back out of their product. So they're really stuck right now.
I work with a big company, a big global entertainment company. And their attitude was, if you like a tool, send it through to the lawyers and they'll decide.
Yeah.
So they'll probably have some form of checklist. So hopefully a lot of the lawyers would look at it and say, you know what, we know that these tools are technically looking at other pieces of content and training the models on, like the models being trained on them. Now, again, it's like, how ethical do we want to be? And I think that's going to be the case. How ethical do we want to be? And then it's a case of saying, right, this one is slightly more ethical than the other one, so let's use this tool. But then again, the downside to that is, are we going to get to the point where all of the tools that are not very good are the ethical ones, and all of the tools that you can really get information and get to some good stuff are the unethical ones? So there's that argument as well.
Yeah, 100%. And when you said that, I was just thinking, if a lawyer went and put Flux into their websites of checking, is this okay or not? I think it's too new, mate. I don't think anyone will have moved it to that grey area yet. So if they do that and go, well, it didn't show up on the list, let's use it. That could be one of the most dangerous things that person decided to do that day. So, yeah, I mean, the problem with checking things in that way is it's old school. You know, it requires like legacy of databases, and it requires updating of databases, and it requires due diligence research. It requires all these types of things. That's not the same in AI launching every week a new platform. You know, Hotshot, Flux, these are totally new platforms. There's 4 people behind them to do the due diligence on it. I don't think you'd get it into a don't use this list in any commercial like company yet. So these companies are obviously scared because that doesn't exist for them. Yeah. That's the thing that they're most scared about, is having to do their own research, make their own ethical choices, their own moral choices. They obviously are keen on it in terms of helping their marketing scale, helping their staff be more efficient, but they're not keen on it in terms of the backlash it could cause, the financial damage, the political issues. In terms of Flux, obviously, it's got a very political, driven narrative right now. So that could be a very negative association with your brand, you know, if you had a lot to lose.
Yeah, what you also will find is that, and again, you might have lawyers that obviously understand certain laws, but they might not understand how certain things work in this, especially in this AI space.
Yeah, it's totally new.
Flux might get banned, but they say, yeah, Twitter's fine. And he's like, but what about Twitter Premium and all of its features? They might say, yeah, that's fine. So people will then go and use the image generator. Now, someone might not even know it's Flux. They might just use Twitter X's image generator, not realizing it's being backed by Flux.
Yeah.
And then that's what they might do, because this is what's going to happen a lot in this AI space. What we're seeing is that companies are teaming up with companies, or they're powered by other companies, or some cases they're white labeling what they do to other platforms. So
that's a good point.
This might be banned, but you can use this, but actually uses that. So again, you're going to get smart employees that will turn around and say, I want to use this. My company's saying no, so maybe I can go the back door around and say this to get around it.
It's so funny you brought that up, actually, because someone changed Flux into Mystic.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They said, I tuned Flux, and now I'm releasing this model as Mystic. And they've got every right to, because it's under the Apache 2 license. So you can literally rebrand it as whatever you like. Yeah. So the underlying thing is called Flux, but the thing we tuned and we trained is called twig.co. It can be anything, you know, you're at a point now, and this is a good analogy. Like, if you ban something in your country, these AIs don't have borders like that. People just use VPNs and use it in other places. Yeah. So it's like, you've got to really think about the ways to ban things, especially when they're open source, especially when you can just jump through a VPN and tunnel through any country and then use it within the legal realms. Like, there's got to be, if they really want to ban something like this, they need to stop it being released. Yeah. Like, as soon as it's released, everyone can download it locally to their computer and rename it whatever they want. You know, it's like, that was a really good point that Demis Hassabis said. Someone asked him about why Google stopped releasing some of their open source software, and he said it's too powerful. Because once it's too powerful and you let go of it, you have no control to call it back. So as soon as someone downloads it and starts doing something terrible with it, and you can't control that anymore, there's no more, you know, the genie's out of the bottle, essentially. That is a good argument against open source. That's the best argument I've ever heard, actually. Things are just getting too powerful. We can't just give them out because people will use them for bad reasons. So, that's where we're at. AI is now too powerful to just give away for free. It's crazy.
And it's interesting because Meta is really going down the open source angle, and a lot of organizations has like Meta accounts, which covers multiple areas of Meta. So,
but I will say, in Meta's case, they are controlling it because they give you the interface to use it, and there's the control. Versus Flux, you just download it and you do whatever you want, and there's no restrictions to the prompts and stuff. So Meta's barrier to the open source, and this is why open source is such a confusing term. There's actually 4 different ways you can be open source. You can open source the model weights, which means you show exactly how you trained it. There's very few companies that do that. You can open source the model. That means it's free and you can use it unlimited amount, and it's hosted by someone like Meta. You can open source the entire platform like Flux, where it's like go and download it locally to your computer and what have you. Or you can open source the entire thing like Stable Diffusion, where every single contributor is somebody in the network and it's community driven. So like open source is the most weirdly termed thing in the AI space, it turns out. And I'm only just learning this myself recently, and we've been in it for like 2 years, right? Yeah. So open source does not mean what it says on the tin, guys.
Yeah.
Not all open source is created equal.
I can't see how it's going to be even less confusing moving forward. So in a nutshell, when it comes to organizations, large organizations, deciding what platform to use, let's be honest, they're all doing something, let's say, not 100% ethical, but again, it's a case of picking your poison.